the Augsburg Confession, we hear, "The church is the assembly of all the believers, among whom the gospel is purely preached, and the holy sacraments are administered according to the gospel." The church is not the building, the structure or the organization, the guidelines, the organ music or the praise bands. The church is the assembly, the community that gathers around word and sacrament, wherever and however that happens. We gather in assembly this year around the theme of created for community, to remind ourselves that God created the church for us to gather in community. I'm looking forward to a gathering as a community, and particularly gathering in person. We did learn there are many things that we can do remotely with the gift of technology, but community is gathering together. And I'm very excited that we'll be together for the first time since 2019. We'll gather first for edification, the building up of the body of Christ via Zoom on May 20th. But on Friday night, June 2nd, we will begin the business of the assembly via Zoom. But then on Saturday, the 3rd of June, we will gather in person at Trinity Lutheran Church in Camp Hill. Trinity has graciously agreed to host us for the assembly. It will be much more efficient use of our resources to gather in one of our congregations, and it will be a joy to be together in person, in community, for which God has created the church. I'm so looking forward to gather for worship and to conduct the work of the church. Peace, and I'll see you there.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Lau, Vice President of our Lower Susquehanna Synod. I'm here today to talk to you about Synod Assembly. Synod Assembly Edification Day will be held by Zoom on May 20th, with the business session beginning Friday evening, June 2nd by Zoom, and Saturday, June 3rd in person at Trinity Lutheran Church, Camp Hill. I encourage everyone to send lay voting members. 45% of our lay voting members are to be women, 45% are to be men. Persons who identify with other gender identities are welcome when seeking to register 2 or more men or 2 or more women. Prior approval is needed from the Synod Secretary so that we can achieve the required gender balance. 2 people from each congregation, and for larger congregations, those with more than 500 baptized members, an additional layperson, preferably youth, young adult, or person of color or primary language other than English. We ask that any congregation wishing to send multiple voting members of the same gender contact the Synod Secretary before registering for Synod Assembly. All voting members are expected to attend all of the Assembly business meetings on June 2nd and June 3rd, as well as the Edification Day on May 20th. Registration for Synod Assembly opens March 1st. Early bird period ends March 31st. Registration is available online. Voting members must be registered by May 15th. No registration will be accepted after the due date due to the need for establishing voting credentials in advance of the assembly. If you find you have to seek a refund for a registration, please don't seek a refund through PayPal, but request it directly from the Synod Treasurer's Office.
Hello, I'm Pastor Dana Blauk-Hansen, Assistant to the Bishop and your Assembly Manager. This year's Assembly will have portions that are digital via Zoom as well as in person. Voting members will participate in the Assembly via Zoom for Edification Day as well as the business meeting on Friday, June 2nd. Edification Day will be held via Zoom, and in our keynote, the Reverend Dr. Hope Tringali will be be presenting her doctoral work entitled Bold Humility, a Reformation of Global Accompaniment. Her work seeks to address global and local encounters, developing an ongoing journey of reflection and discernment that emphasizes mutuality, accountability, relationship building, and interconnectedness. Anyone who wants to participate in our Edification Day that is not a voting member can register online for $25. Our Edification Day is included for all voting members. For our time together on Zoom, please consider using a computer or watching the sessions with a group on a larger screen. Conferences or congregations may want to host watch parties to help each other with questions and tech needs. This way will not be conducive for the Edification Day if you want to attend different forums. Each voting member will need a separate device for voting, such as a smartphone or a tablet. Please make sure your device is fully charged, as we cannot guarantee enough outlets for everyone to charge. Portable chargers may be helpful to bring along with you. We will be using the VVox app for voting again this year. Please make sure your device can download this particular app. To use VVox, you do not need to register or provide credit card information. A video on how to prepare for Assembly will be released close to that date, along with Test Your Tech practice sessions to practice with Zoom and the voting platform. We will have people available to answer your digital questions while we are online, as well as when we are in person. Digital instructions with the Zoom link and voting credentials will be provided through email a few days before the business session of the Assembly. Please do not share that information with others. The in-person business day on Saturday, June 3rd, will be held at Trinity Lutheran Church in Camp Hill. Business day visitors and guests can live stream that event due to the size of our assembly and due to the limited seating capacity. We also recommend carpooling when possible. We will provide a map of additional parking around Trinity Lutheran Church, and we are working on a block of hotel rooms if you would like to stay overnight.
Hello, I'm Beth Schlegel, Secretary of the Lower Susquehanna Synod, and I have some important information for you in preparation for our upcoming Synod Assembly as well as for your conference assemblies. Each conference will elect a conference dean this year. Newly elected deans will be installed at the Synod Assembly. The Synod Assembly will also elect a Synod Secretary, Synod Council members, and members of the Consultation Committee and the Committee on Discipline. For Synod Council elections, there is a slate for laypersons, any gender. This will help us to include diverse participation as well as comply with the constitutional requirement of being at least 45% lay men and 45% lay women. The nomination information forms have been revised to allow nominees to indicate a gender identity. The slate may include men, women, and anyone identifying with a different gender identity. Anyone indicating other or prefer not to answer on their nominee information form will be placed on that slate. Others may be placed on that slate as well, depending on the number of responses. All persons nominated from the floor must have been given prior consent to be nominated and must submit the nominee information form by 8:15 a.m. on Saturday morning. If you have questions about the elections process, please let me know. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Regarding memorials and resolutions, memorials are actions directed to the ELCA churchwide assembly, and resolutions are actions directed to the Lower Susquehanna Synod Assembly. The deadline for submitting memorials and resolutions is May 1st. Please refer to the guidelines for memorials and resolutions available on the Synod Assembly page on our website. Please keep whereas clauses to a minimum, since they will not be read aloud at the Assembly. If there are budgetary implications, please consult with the Treasurer's office and be sure to include that information in the resolution. If you have further questions, please contact my office. Proposed amendments to Synod governing documents were provided via email on November 30th, 2022. You can also reach these documents by our website in the newsletter archives at the bottom of our homepage. We hope that you will take the time to look on our website because there is very much information there that is helpful to you. Thank you very much.
And now you know everything you need to know about Synod Assembly. If you still have questions, you can certainly contact our registrar to ask questions about the Assembly and anything you may need to do. It has been a long time since we have met in person, and I am really, really looking forward to seeing everyone. Take care, make sure your registrations come in on time, and see you by Zoom in May and in person in June. Thank you.